My name is Albert Roy. I'm the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Lupus Research Alliance, and I'm humbled to be here on this momentous day. It's taken a lot of hard work to get to this point, and today, in collaboration with the Food and Drug Administration, we're proud to announce the creation of the Lupus Accelerating Breakthroughs Consortium, which I'll refer to as the Lupus ABC, a first-of-its-kind initiative to make lupus drug development faster, more efficient, and ultimately more beneficial to the people who need it most. We're here today for one simple reason. Lupus drug development is hard. Lupus is a complex disease. It affects every person differently, and its effects wax and wane over time, which makes it one of the most difficult diseases to diagnose and to treat, let alone commercialize life-changing therapies. Building on the work of its three legacy organizations, the Lupus Research Alliance, as the world's largest private funder of lupus research, has worked closely with people with lupus and researchers to address those challenges for over 2 decades. We're proud of the fact that our organization, since inception, has directed more than $245 million in investments for lupus research. We're delighted that our research investments contributed to the base of knowledge that led to the approval of 3 treatments for lupus. While we are grateful for those treatments, unfortunately, scientific barriers persist that mean these treatments don't offer the relief to the broadest number of people. There are challenges in designing clinical trials, there's obstacles in measuring if a treatment is working, and there are a lack of tools to gather and apply patient insights. That's why this public-private partnership with the FDA is so very important. The people we're here to serve are relying on all of us to come together as a community and break down those barriers. And that's exactly what we intend to do. So under the auspices of the Lupus ABC, we're bringing together advocates, biopharmaceutical industry leaders, government agencies, and people with lupus to accelerate the life-changing treatments that are not only so deserved, but necessary to allow people living with lupus to become the best version of themselves. I have no doubt this community-wide consortium is a turning point in the fight against lupus and will serve as a catalyst for new and exciting breakthroughs in lupus treatments. I'd like to welcome Dr. Gary Koretsky, co-chair of the Lupus ABC Research Committee, to talk through some of those challenges and what the opportunities are to make a difference in patients' lives through this new initiative. Gary?
Great. Well, thank you very much, Al, and thank you all for being here. As Al mentioned, my name is Gary Koretsky. I'm a professor of medicine at Weill Cornell Medical College and also a professor at Cornell University in Ithaca. I'm a rheumatologist, and for more than 3 decades, I've led a basic science research group that's focused on immunology. And I'm incredibly honored and pleased to serve as the co-chair of the Lupus ABC Research Committee. As Al mentioned, lupus is a complicated disease. It's uniquely difficult to diagnose and treat because of its diverse symptoms. In fact, for some patients, it may take years and visits with multiple physicians before a diagnosis is even made. And sadly, once that diagnosis is made, even with the best therapies that we now have available, many patients still experience life-altering symptoms. Those with advanced disease have significant risk of frequent hospitalizations and even premature death due to heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and kidney complications of their lupus. Lupus also disproportionately affects women, and in particular, those from our Black and Hispanic communities. So therefore, we all agree that it's incumbent on us to do better at both early detection and improved therapies. The Lupus ABC was performed for precisely this reason, to increase the speed with which new therapies can be made available to our patients. As co-chair of the consortium's research committee, my job will be to bring together drug developers, researchers, clinicians, government stakeholders, and most importantly, lupus patients to accelerate approval of new lupus therapies. The lack of effective treatment isn't due to the lack of conviction from the lupus community. We know that. Researchers are committing their time and effort to the study of lupus. Drug developers are working hard at translating those discoveries into new therapies, and patients are eagerly participating in trials. However, developing new and effective treatments is daunting. It's increasingly clear that one of the major hurdles is that the way we enroll patients in trials and how we evaluate outcomes needs to be reimagined. And this is because lupus is this very, very complicated disorder. And in fact, I think most people would agree it's not a single disease, but instead it's a constellation of diseases. And this means that lupus drug trials can't be one size fits all, but they have to be tailored so that the appropriate patients are enrolled, and we're mindful about the outcome measures that will actually determine success. And the research committee of the Lupus ABC will tackle these questions by having all of the stakeholders together at the table to build consensus so that we can guide best practices going forward. As you'll hear in just a moment from my colleagues, Dr. Teo Steva and Ms. Veronica Varga Lupo, we understand that prioritizing the patient perspective is an essential piece to improve the development of the treatments that will meet the needs of those with lupus. Veronica will be leading a patient group that will provide this essential perspective to the Lupus ABC as we collaborate with the FDA to align the research and development process with the unique realities of people living with lupus. We believe that by bringing everybody to the table, we will collectively bring together the lupus community to define the problems and develop the solutions in lupus research and rapidly remove the barriers that have prevented so many people from getting the treatment that they need. So to give some more context about how exactly the Lupus ABC will go about its work, I'd like to turn this now to Dr. Steva, the Chief Science Officer of the Lupus Research Alliance. So Taya.
Thank you, Dr. Koretsky. Good afternoon, everyone. I share my colleagues' excitement on this day about the launch of the Lupus Accelerating Breakthroughs Consortium. The Lupus ABC emerged from three key initiatives, or influences, I should say. One is the urgent need to address the long-standing challenges in lupus drug development. Two is the requirement to integrate the patient's perspective in this process. And three, as reflected by my colleagues, the lupus community's desire as well as commitment to deliver safer and more effective treatment options for individuals with lupus. So given this, the mission really of the Lupus ABC is to bring together the lupus community with the FDA to identify the most effective approaches to accelerate lupus drug development in the pre-competitive setting. The objectives that are established for the Lupus ABC are twofold. The first is to collaboratively develop and implement projects that address the obstacles in lupus drug development. And the second important objective is to ensure that the experiences, perspectives, needs, and priorities of people with lupus are actually captured as well as meaningfully integrated into the evaluation of new therapies for lupus. Now, the structure that was developed for the Lupus ABC was done in a way to enable broad community representation as well as input on the vision, the priorities, and the individual activities that will be pursued by the Lupus ABC. There are two key governing bodies of the Lupus ABC, the Research Committee and the Lupus Voices Council. The Research Committee is comprised primarily of clinicians and scientists working in academia, industry, and government sectors. And the Research Committee will establish and lead the clinical research agenda for the Lupus ABC. On the other hand, the Lupus Voices Council will be comprised of individuals with lupus, their care providers, as well as advocates. And the Lupus Voices Council will provide the critical input of people living with lupus across the Lupus ABC. There is close integration between these two governing bodies in order to ensure, once again, that the patient perspective is really critically integrated throughout all activities of the Lupus ABC. In terms of the scientific scope of the Lupus ABC, that was informed by the LRA's Lupus Industry Council, as well as the Lupus Clinical Investigators Network that is managed by LRA's fully owned affiliate Lupus Therapeutics. There is an initial framework for the scientific scope that is broadly focused around outcome measures as well as improving clinical trial design. And this initial framework is actually currently being used to solicit important additional feedback from the research committee members so that during their first meeting next month, the group can actually define the overall research agenda for the initiative and the specific projects that will be undertaken as a first priority. I want to again emphasize that the ultimate projects that will be pursued through the Lupus ABC will really be defined by its two key governing bodies, the Research Committee and the Lupus Voices Council. So very excitingly, as of today, the Lupus ABC members include 20 institutions from government, from professional patient organizations, industry. The complete list is posted on the lupusabc.org website, and I hope you all will be able to take a closer look at that. We are clearly delighted with the robust community response, and we're also very grateful to all of the current partners for their commitment to this really important initiative. We welcome additional partners. The Lupus ABC is open to institutions that are committed to active as well as consistent participation in the work of the Lupus ABC. And finally, I want to end by summarizing the advantages and unique opportunities that are offered by the Lupus ABC. First, this initiative really brings together the lupus community through an interactive, inclusive, and transparent approach. It engages the regulators ex officio in real time to openly address shared issues in the pre-competitive space. It integrates the perspectives of individuals living with lupus at all levels of the Lupus ABC. And importantly, I think it also offers a collaborative alternative for clinical research efforts in lupus. So to give you more context about how the Lupus Voices Council will work with the Research Committee, I will turn you over to the co-chair of this key governing body of the Lupus ABC, Veronica Vargas Lupo.
Thank you, Dr. Steva, and thank you all for being here today to support this groundbreaking movement. My name is Veronica Vargas Lupo, and I'm the co-chair of the Lupus Voices Council. And like so many people living with lupus, my road to diagnosis was a long and exhausting one. I had one hospitalization, surgery, countless tests, and conflicting opinions, all before I turned 20. In my senior year of college, I collapsed on my kitchen floor, and my dad rushed me to the hospital. After 15 days in the ICU, 4 weeks of chemotherapy, and thousands of milligrams of prednisone, I was diagnosed with lupus, and I learned that the disease had been active in my body for at least 2 years. I was relieved to finally have a diagnosis, but honestly, I wasn't surprised. It seemed logical because my mom also has lupus, and it was a theory I tried to share with several doctors before they flooded my body with radiation and steroids to combat an undiagnosed disease. But like so many people living with lupus, there's a huge disconnect between the experiences I lived and the treatment I received. That's why Lupus ABC is so important. And it's why I'm so proud to help lead the Lupus Voices Council. There's so much information out there, and we could improve so many lives if we could bring together doctors, researchers, people living with lupus to share the expertise they already have. That's why the Lupus Voices Council is here to accomplish. This group will empower people with lupus, their advocates, and their families to drive advances in lupus treatments. It will establish these partners as equal in the treatment conversation, galvanizing people to share their experiences in a forum where they know they will be heard. And that representation is a crucial step to accelerating breakthroughs in lupus treatments, because that sense of equality isn't something most people experience when they're sitting in a hospital bed, watching a doctor flip through their charts. That experience doesn't encourage people with lupus to share their knowledge and to take charge of their own treatment. And that's especially true for women and women of color who develop lupus at far higher rates than other groups. The Lupus Voices Council is here to change that. We're here to arm the medical community with diverse insights into a disease that affects everybody differently. More than that, we're here to change the conversation between doctors and people with lupus, whether that means reframing the narrative around pregnancy, exploring the role of nutrition in treatment, or simply encouraging doctors to treat people with lupus as equal partners in their own treatment. By design, we have a powerful opportunity with Lupus ABC to bridge the divide between the voices of lupus and the science of research and development. This effort brings together some of the brightest minds in rheumatology, pathology, and more. And as those experts hear our stories and understand our needs, they will take that knowledge to clinics, conferences, and classrooms across the world. Despite all the twists and turns of my lupus story, I am very lucky. After several years and several tries, my doctors found a mix of treatments that have kept me healthy. But not every person with lupus is so fortunate. Many people don't respond to any of the current lupus treatments, and in many cases, treatment side effects are too toxic to even consider. But I know from experience that with targeted treatments, life with lupus can be lived to the fullest, filled with joy, laughter, a career, kids of your own, and anything else you want from this world. That dream and the love of my friends and family are what give me the strength to get up every day and continue fighting. Fighting for diverse treatments for the many faces of lupus, fighting for every woman who fears the unknown, and fighting to find a cure. And with Lupus ABC, we can be confident that regulators, drug developers, researchers, advocates, and people with lupus are all in this fight together. Thank you.
Veronica, thank you so much. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your story. And most importantly, thank you for taking a leadership role on the Lupus Voices Council. We know that you'll add great value, and so will your colleagues. So we're looking forward to that. So as we said, this announcement is really just the beginning of our endeavor. All of the hard work is still in front of us. We'll begin that hard work on April 16th and 17th when the Lupus ABC Research Committee and the Lupus Voices Council will hold their first meeting with the Food and Drug Administration and other stakeholders in Washington, D.C. We'll be sure to keep you all informed on our progress to accelerate breakthroughs in lupus